Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and heads of service. A very good afternoon, and welcome to this conversation with the head of service. The sitting agreement just reminded me of a poem, One Man, One Woman. I don't know how many of you remember that poem. Anyway, let's leave that. This is just an interactive session, not just with the head of service, but designed to ensure that everybody in the hall can also participate once the heads of service are done with their conversation. It's just to again reflect and to find out exactly the things that needs to be done to improve the services in the region. And we had circulated, and I hope heads of service you've seen it. Last week, I think, the Federal Civil Service celebrated its week. And the head of service of the Federation openly declared that the Nigerian civil service is the best in the world. And on Sunday, Kola Wole, one of the best columnists in Nigeria, in an article, The Best Civil Service in the World, did a fantastic pushback, arguing that the Nigerian civil service is far from being the best in the world. I don't know how many of you read that article, but it speaks to the quality of what we have today in the civil service. But more especially when you juxtapose that with the lecture you heard today. You have to clean that place, it's wet. And they've cleaned it? Yes. Yeah, okay. So when you juxtapose that with the very brilliant lecture we heard from Professor Olokwa today, I'm sure you all have a very deep insight into the challenges facing the civil service today. And the question therefore is, yes, there are challenges, but how do we begin to prepare for the future? And if that future is to meet and actualize some of the things that we heard from Professor Olokwa today, the ladies and gentlemen on this side of the aisle today, and the host of permanent secretaries here, being the leaders of the service, are going to champion the change and the reformation. And that's where our conversation will start from. And I want to start from the head of service of my own state today, from the left. My first question to you is that, reflecting on what you've heard so far, not just from the governor of Edo State, but from Olokwa himself, give us your take as to what you heard, and as you listen to both, what came to your mind as to the things that needs to be done, particularly in Delta State, to build or to prepare the civil service for the 21st century?
Thank you, Ambassador Keshi, for that. I'll say good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond first. Let me start with what the governor of Edo State said. I think his remarks were quite thought-provoking and in-depth, and it gives us a sense that with the right political will and leadership, a lot can be achieved. And fundamentally, which is very important, what he has done in terms of training and building up this leadership, a public service academy, is not something that you can see physically, but internally it goes down the mind. There's a lot of mind change. Then for Professor Olokpa, I also listen because before he even came on board, we've read many of his books, and he gave us one here which we've just been flipping through. But what I can see there is that I think just relating to the lecture that was circulated, we need to change our minds positively for the 21st century. Like you rightly ruled out when you were making your remarks, a lot of things that the skill sets that are required from us, I think is something that we need to buy into. But there was something that struck me when he was speaking, and I'm sure as he was talking, my permanent secretary was nodding his head, and it was a question that was also asked. I am directed. We need to get a way out of going. I've also frowned against that word, I am directed. Even if you are directed, there are innovative ways you can use to start a statement without saying, I am directed. And obviously, too, when he spoke, I shared with my colleague from Bayelsa, where you were talking about waiting for that directive. You don't necessarily to wait for that directive. You marshal out the options and let the leader take the best options given the circumstances. I think that's the way I want to start. Thank you, sir.
Madam, your views.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the thing that runs through the whole presentation today is about change. And from what we saw, change is possible. But for the civil service to really make the impact that it's supposed to make, there has to be a structured change in the dynamics of the civil service, in the attitude, in the training programs that we are running. It shouldn't be the usual training programs. It should be trainings that are tailored, that are in sync with modern realities. And that's the way to go for us to be able to meet up and even say, we are one of the best in the world. You can't be the best when you are not digitally sound. And you can't be the best when you don't have written policies that people can implement and work with. You can't be the best using policies that you have been using since the 60s and 50s. So, for me, from the two lectures we have heard, and from your presentation, from the one lecture, and your comments, and from the governor's experience, we can achieve if we put our minds to it. And you know, it also tells us that we need the right leadership. Professor Olokpa was harping on leadership. So we need the right leadership to drive this process. And I come back to us that are civil servants. We need to be the change that we want to see. You don't expect change and you don't work for it. You don't sit down and change is handed over to you. You have to be that change. You have to want it, crave it, and seek it. That's the best way to get the change that can drive the developments that we are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So in Edo State, you started some change already. What were the challenges in trying to effect that change? And do you think that there are lessons that your colleagues should learn when they want to do exactly what you have done in Edo State?
Thank you, Ambassador. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. For us, we have had a unique experience as a state. In reality, when we talk about change, we know that change is usually difficult, especially the very disruptive change, like the one technology brings. And so, to be able to pull it through, you must get the people prepared for it. And that's crucial. Oftentimes, we just bring the change that we want to see and impose it on the people. And most of the time, it fails. So there has to be a period of transition. And what you use that period of transition to achieve will either make or mar what you're bringing about. In our own case, we had about 2 years to prepare. And one of the things we did here, it's been said before, and we can reiterate it, that we are the only state in this country right now that has a completely digitalized public service. And we're quite proud of that and what we've achieved regarding that. But it was not mere happenstance. It was something we planned for. And it was something we executed deliberately and intentionally. And one of the success factors was the fact that we communicated with our people. One of the things we did was that we went round. It was an uncomfortable one because many times people resist change, not because they don't like it, but because they don't know what the change will bring about for them. And so you need to sensitize them. It has to be deliberate and intentional. There's something we call word round here. It was by coinage for medical doctors. You know what word round is? You need to go around from word to word, from patient to patient to see how they're doing. That's what we implemented here. We knew that this was where we wanted to be. But to be able to get there, we needed to communicate to our people. So we went round all the ministries and departments and agencies, not once, not twice, not thrice, in some cases, even 4 times. And during that period, we felt their pulse about the change that we're bringing. We let them know what this change will do for them, how much better they would become as civil and public servants if they embraced and accepted the change and all of that. So the conversations were usually very free, and oftentimes we elicited such effusive comments and recommendations from our people that even helped us to shape the change that we're bringing about. Because now, because we didn't have a precedent, there was nobody who had done it before, so we didn't have anybody to look up to. So the conversations we had with our people, bordering on how our people perceived what we were doing, helped us to think through the process of the change and ensure that we had a better outcome. And it was quite good. So I think that for each and every one of us, if we're bringing about change, we must prepare the people to accept, to know the kind of change that is coming, what that change will do in their lives, how much better it will make them. Of course, if it's worse, we won't bring it to them. And then how they can acclimatize and how they can get used to the change that is coming. To have moved the people from point 0, where there were even few computers in the system. Computer literacy was at its lowest ebb. To a situation in 2 years where the only way of working in the system is through the computer. That was not a main feat. It was something we did as a result of the fact that we communicated with our people. And then the other thing, which is equally important, is what I call a touch study. And that's why I said earlier, these things were not just mere happenstance. Now, the service that you belong to. You know that our service, the civil service, is traditionally reluctant when it comes to change, especially the change that is initiated from outside. So, because there's a lot of talent from within. And unfortunately, over time, the consultants we have had, across all the services in the country, have done a lot more ill to the system, than good. Because they come with the mindset, we're superior to these people. Absolutely. And so, oftentimes, you see a pushback. Okay, so you know it more than us. Okay, now, say you will soon go. And that is the response that you get. So what we have done is to take the change that we initiated to the people. In addition to sensitizing them, we also ensured that we make them buy into it and then to own it. The initiatives were brought in, sometimes from outside, but we sold these initiatives to the people, convinced our people. And then in the process of conceptualizing the change, not just at the level of implementation, when conceptualizing it, when looking at how to get it done, do it with the people. And so it's more receptible to them. They are more readily willing to agree with what you are bringing to them than one that you just bring to them and impose on them. Whether they like it or not, it doesn't matter. So those are two things that we must learn from our own experience.
Thank you very much. Madam. One of the things that the BRACE Commission promotes is the sharing of knowledge and sharing of ideas, so that you don't go looking for where you find the knowledge or where you find the ideas. In other words, Edo State has done some tremendous work in digitalizing the system and so on. Do you think there's something you can borrow from here to help you change digitalize in your state and make sure that this become part of the norm within the next 2 years?
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Here in Edo State, I have seen the process, and I think it's very good. But before now, I'd also sold the same idea to my governor, and we're working on it. And each time I would say, Edo State is already on it. I say, okay, since Edo State is already on it, you two work on it so that we can start it. So we're in discussion on how to get our system. But we thought about just you doing a pilot scheme for the Office of the Head of Service first. Like most civil servants, they don't like change. When you tell them we now have to go digital, they tell you, but we don't have this, we don't have that. But I think that by the time His Excellency approves of it, not only in principle, but also the others to go, I'm sure that we'll be able to fall in line.
Well, you heard what the head of the governor, I think, said. And in fact, I find that very amazing, that you don't own any computer, the government doesn't own any computer. Because I know that when something similar was done in South Africa, particularly for the teachers, the government provided laptops and computer to the system. And they paid for half. And the civil servants paid the remaining half. So how is it that, how did you folks manage that you don't own any computer so that people can learn from?
Okay, when you hear that our government is the government of MOUs, these are the things we talk about. Intelligence, financial intelligence. Our governor has it plenty. You know, the truth is, we have nearly 40,000 workers in Edo.
40,000?
Yep. Nearly 40,000 across the board. And it's inconceivable for you as a state government to provide a computer for everyone. So we knew from the word go that we're not going to do that. So we needed to make sure that even if we're buying some, we were sure of what we're going to spend. That's number one. But the best way out, so we're exploring options. The governor explored options as to how to deal. And then he found someone who was willing to supply the computers, under an MOU. There's some cost to it, of course, But these computers are essentially not ours. They are his own. So we're just paying for the use of the computers. And don't forget, these computers have a lifespan. So if you invest in a computer today, in the next 5 or 6 years, you may not have that computer as good as it was initially. So with the MOU that we have with this man, with this company, what we do is that when the computers go bad, he withdraws them and he replaces them. So we are paid essentially for the service. And that's quite smart, financially. But the other things we have done, because people then we have just about 7,000, a little less than 7,000 in system computers. But again, we have over 30,000 workers. So if we were to give just the computers to everyone, it would still not be enough. So we devised additional means. to get our people to work on our EROP, which is the EduGov. Now, what did we do? We have what we call the EduGov kiosk. What that means is that rather than have single laptops to each person, you have a place in a ministry, department, or agency where you have 2 or in some cases 3 desktops together in a conspicuous place, so that those who are not able to get laptops are able to access the internet. They're able to access the EduGov EROP through these computers. Because in any case, in reality, you don't have a computer 24/7. I mean, I'm talking now, my own is idle somewhere. So if you liberate the opportunity you have to have the desktops, so if you have 80 persons in an MD, in a ministry or department or agency, and then you can give computers to say 20. So, but you still have a deficit of 60. So those 60 can now work in those kiosks. Because what you actually need is to go there, access the EROP, finish, and then exit, while some other people will go. That's number one. Then we also have what we call the EduGov app, which we developed, and you can download it on your Android phone. I'm sure virtually everybody here has the app. So anywhere you go, even when you do not have a computer or you don't have access to the kiosk, you can use the app. That's ingenious, and it's something we develop from within. The final way we've been able to deal with this issue, because I'm sure some of my colleagues now will be thinking, we have 20,000 people, how do we give computers to all of them? So that's why I'm bringing this up. Now, if you also have your own computer, subject to certain conditions, we can onboard you on our system, and you use that computer. Then finally, we have what we call buy to own. That's what we are still developing. What does that mean? The government brings a bank that finances the purchase of computers, laptops, any one that you want. And those computers are purchased for staff, but the staff have what we call an equity in the purchase. They pay something. So in our case, if a computer is to cost 100,000, because there's no computer, this good computer that costs 100,000, maybe you pay 40% over time, and government pays 60%. And then the 60% government drops immediately. But your own, Mr. Governor says, the 40%, you must not pay more than 5,000 naira every month until the 40% is liquidated. So that way, the computer is yours. It's not that of the government. So when you are leaving the system, you take it away. Unlike my own now, when eventually I retire by the grace of God, I leave it behind. So that one is your own. So the interest, many people have expressed interest in that one, and that's what we're working on now. So those are the ways and means that you can get your people to have access to the equipment that you require to run an e-governance system. I just thought I should mention that.
Thank you. Sir.
Been similar with our teachers in Bayelsa State. They have these, you buy to own computers, and then they have a system where lesson notes and everything is prepared through the e-system. That is already on ground for the post-primary schools, those teaching in the secondary schools.
Great. Sir, I know that you missed the governor's speech, and you missed the very interesting lectures of the chairman of the Federal Public Service Commission. But essentially, the essence of this gathering is a realization that, look, we need to begin to prepare the civil service of this region for the 21st century. At the end of the day, this is a century that will be determined by knowledge and skills. And if you do not prepare your service today to have that knowledge, that skills, and as Professor Olokwa said that many civil servants retire without even specializing in anything. So post-retirement becomes very challenging. I wonder what exactly you are doing in terms of training, retraining, and preparing your service for the future?
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Ambassador. Good evening, colleagues. I missed the morning session. I want to say I have been around in service for a while, and I can quickly key in and contribute. The Akwa Ibom State last week celebrated, joined the Federation and the global community and celebrated the Public Service Week. And it was quite interesting, the theme of the celebration: stay forward looking, make a difference. Stay forward looking, make a difference. Despite the situation that we have to be hopeful that the situation will change. And we have to be the change agents. We have to make a difference. I want to say that the service in the country has been at the stationary stage, has been at one point for a long time, has been at rest for a long time. We got used to doing things in one way, and would resist change whenever such comes. And a body that has been at rest for a long time, before you can move it from that point to another point, you have to apply force that will be able to move it, that will be able to overcome the resistance of that body moving, to move it forward. We need to take very radical approach to change of the service, to be in line with the global best practice. And we need to adopt technology to change our level of delivery in the service, to increase efficiency and productivity in the service. I want to appreciate my colleague in Edo State, the level they have gone in digitization and computerization of the service here. We started something about 2 years ago. It has not been easy, trying to match the need of infrastructure, the need of attitudinal change of the workers, and the resenting attitude to change. It has not been easy, but I know that government has to take radical approach to change the situation. And we started human resource management system and asset management in Akwa Ibom State. We have the system. As we speak, we need the goodwill of government. We need attitudinal change of the workers to be able to apply this technology and move the state from where it has been over the years and make a difference. And I want to appreciate my governor, now His Excellency Pastor Umoino. He is approaching this situation very radically. And he has asked us, you need to train. and retrain the workers. Over the years, it's been difficult for us to move our workers from Akwa Ibom State to Badagry, Ascon in the Badagry for training. But the governor has said, you do not have to wait and go to Badagry when you have maybe financial difficulty in taking a lot of the workers there and training them. But it will be cheaper to bring Badagry to Akwa Ibom and train the workers. And we have concluded arrangements to bring in Ascon to Akwa Ibom State before the end of this month. We are going to have training for the permanent secretaries. We are going to have training, leadership training for directors. And this will go a long way in addition to the previous training that we have done in the state on attitudinal change, on management of intelligence and other trainings, management trainings that we have done. So we need to be very, very intentional in the plans and implementation of moving the service from where it is to where it ought to be. We need to make that difference. We do not have to, be constrained by the attitude of the workers. We do not need to be constrained by the difficult economic situation. We need to be intentional about doing it and move the service forward. Let me also appreciate the Breast Commission for this training, to bring all of us together to collaborate, to exchange knowledge, to share experience in moving the service forward. So thank you, sir, for the work that you are doing. I have been monitoring what is happening, reading some of the scripts, and I want to appreciate the ICT unit. They've been sharing the happenings here, and I miss my presence, but not completely, because I've been updated all the time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I will tell you one of those things that I quarrel about when I hear leaders talk and use the word, we need to. My question is always, who are these we? When you are the leaders. Because when you begin to say we, I get very uneasy. Whether these things will be, but you're going to take some of your people to Badagry. I know that as of today, Badagry does not have the kind of ambience and equipment that this place has. I know you've not been able to go around. But we hope you will find the time to go around and see what's going on here. Maybe from Akwa Ibom to this place is not as expensive as going from Akwa Ibom to Badagry. This is the shortest. So your people can actually come, come in here for training, especially for leadership. But before we go to the house, again, I want to go back to the head of service from Delta. Everything we are discussing here today, boils down on leadership. The major problem of this country, I can spend a whole day discussing with anybody about the problem of this country. And as I always say, it's neither religion and it's not ethnicity. It's purely leadership. But you as the head of service, and this is a question for the panel. Everybody here is a leader. So also the permanent secretaries here. So do you think that there's enough leadership in the states, within the service itself, to forcefully push change?
If I will answer that in a simple sentence, I think there is. There is. There's enough leadership to push change.
So what's the problem?
No, the real thing there is the vision. The vision. It's just like we're seeing in Edo State here now. Right? When in this academy that you are recommending to have.
No. Okay. You've not completed that statement. Whose vision?
Vision, the vision of the leader.
All right, good.
That's the political leader. The vision of the
That's
political
what I
leader.
wanted you to say.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sir. I thought the vision of the political leader, which cascade down to the other.
So, as civil servant, how do you get the leaders to see this vision? Because that's what Chief Oyegu was saying about the leaders of old. That was what Chief Olopa said about the Chief Awolowo and Adebo's, joint leadership of the service of Western Nigeria, of which, by the way, Delta and Edo benefited from.
I think the issue is really simple. The way to go about it is, first of all, to get the confidence of your leader. And in getting that confidence, it means that you need to know what is right and do what is right and impact it to them. I'll tell you something. I tell my civil servants, and I'm sure Papa also mentioned it when he talked about loyalty. Our essential thing is we are loyal to the government of the day, no matter who's there.
Sure.
And what I used to say too is that it's the political masters who go to seek the mandate. Ours is to help them execute that mandate. Whether you're a professor, whether you're a doctor, whether you're the most brilliant lawyer, you must key into that mandate that the leader has set for himself and for the people. And in doing so, you need to provide unbiased opinion that is well thought out, well researched, and of course, you give that person a range of opinion options, taking the pros and the cons, and allow him to take that decision. And once he builds the confidence that at every given point in time, you know what you are doing, and your advice is unbiased, and you have that loyalty to the government, you draw their confidence, and they'll begin to listen to you. And I think that way we can, in our own small way, shape the vision as it concerns the public service. And of course, it can cascade down to the citizenry, because in public service, our ultimate aim is service delivery to the citizens.
Yes. Madam.
Okay.
By the way, one of the things you said reminded me of, you talk of loyalty and, a former head of service from, I think from here too, Longe, I think it was from here. He defined the role of the civil service and said that if your boss wants to go to hell, your job is to gently lead him to hell. Madam.
Sorry, sir. Let me just even add to that. I have one fine word I share with my people. And I say, if my boss tells me, put your hand into the fire, I will gladly do so. And they all gap. And I said, what? How? I said, the way I'll do it is such that I'll go and wear a fireproof glove and put my hand into the fire. That way, I'm protecting him, I'm protecting myself. How am I protecting him? How am I protecting him? If I put my hand into naked fire and I get burnt, somebody will blame him. You send that person to put his hand into a fire when you know it will get burnt. So without glove, nobody will blame him because my hand will get burnt. And me too. You can't tell me, you foolish man. Somebody told you put your hand into fire and you know you get burnt and you put your hand. So I wear the glove. That way I protect him. I protect myself. But if he tells me put your naked hand, then I'll tell him, show him the way first.
I'm not sure you have heard the story of the king. Some of his advisors used to say to him, you can do anything. Just like Trump now has been giving almost, And so every time they meet, And the king wants to, no, you can do it. You can do anything. You can give anybody order. So one day, the king said to the main man himself, he said, so you always say to me, as a king, I can do anything. The man said, yes. And then the king said, okay, put your hand into the fire. And he said, now. And then started saying, he said, no, you said I can do everything. So madam, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I think you can do everything within reason. That's what we should be looking at. And when you talk about leadership, I think leadership is quite important. For us in River State, we have an advantage that our governor now was a civil servant. So he knows the pains and the civil servants go through. He rose through the ranks. So he knows the difficulties that we are facing as civil servants. So he's more open to ideas. As the head of service, Akwa Ibom, was talking about training that they were planning. We in River State were planning as part of the activities to mark our civil service week, we said we'll be doing training and retraining for permanent secretaries and for directorate cadre staff, because knowledge is dynamic and so many people are set in their ways that you need to bring them out of that, their set mentality to absorb new ideas and to flow with those ideas. So leadership for me is important, and he has set the pace for us. He's not officious. He treats matters as they come, and he has told us that that is the way he wants everybody to work. So when you have a boss that tells you the way he is working, it's easy for you to follow, and that leadership drives the change that you want to see. Coming back, what happens when you have a leader that is not amenable to change?
I say bulldozer.
That's where the problem lies. What do you do? So, as he said, you will inform, you will project the ideas, and you leave it for him to take the ideas that he deems fit.
Thank you. Can we skip you for a while? And, I'm sure you know why. Yes, madam.
For us, I think we have good leadership. As heads of service, we have our political heads. Once the political head has given the vision, it's our duty to key in. And as a head of service, I also relay same to the permanent secretaries. And then the permanent secretaries also key in. So when we say the country, everything is about leadership, yes, it's about leadership. And it all lies on us. If we don't play our part properly, then we cannot get the change that we expect. Let me give you an instance in my state. For some time, we've been appointing permanent secretaries, not through any formal process, but permanent secretaries have been appointed. And then with this governor, he looked at it. I said, head of service, what do you think? Permanent secretaries? I said, yes, sir. We need to appoint permanent secretaries. So how do we go about it? I said, let's write an exam, make them to write exams, and then we do the interview. And then he turned and said, yes, I support, I like the idea. And so he gave the approval. So having sold this to him, for every other appointment, he agrees it has to be by an exam. We invite ASCON or any other body. We also do the oral interview. So I think it lies on us as the heads. Just as we are given the vision, we also make it easy for them. That way the system is better.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, one more time. When you have a leader that believes in the outcome, that believes in the public servants, the civil servants, that listens to the civil servants. Let me make bold to say that some of our leaders despise the civil service. When you want to talk about the civil service, a leader would say, leave the civil servant. They are this, they are that. But when you have a leader that listens to the civil servants and understand their needs, their situation, and say, what do we do about this situation? How do we move forward from where we are? You make progress in terms of service delivery. That is the situation that we have in Akwa Ibom State now. We have a leader who is listening to us in the public service. So many things that we did not do before now. It takes a look at them. This is the wisdom in attending to this situation and providing solutions to them. And it makes the public service to be vibrant. It makes the public service, the civil servants to be ready to put in their best. So the attitude of a leader, could hamper the progress of the service.
Thank you very much. Edo, you seem to have a leader that have a complete different view, and you have benefited from it. What advice would you give to your colleagues?
Okay, thank you, Ambassador, sir. Again, good afternoon, everyone. I see leadership from a slightly different perspective. Leadership is at different levels. You have leadership at the political level in government. They play their role, like our governor is doing. You also have leadership in other, at other levels. At the level of the head of service, you have to provide leadership. At the level of permanent secretary, provide leadership. At the level of even unit heads, you provide leadership. That's the way the civil and public service are structured. And if we don't understand this, we're going to blame everything on who we call the leader. And that's why we are always so quick to call the political people leader, leader, leader. And we're running around them. If you are governor and you don't play your role well, it means you're failing as a political leader. If you are head of service and you don't play your role well, it means you're failing. Your leadership is failing at your level. And it's the same thing. But I agree that the relationship between the service and the political leadership is like the relationship between the day and the night. The relationship between the spiritual and the physical. Because oftentimes the spiritual determines the physical. So at the level of that leadership, a lot is at stake. So what has happened in Edo is that at his level as governor, he has shown strong leadership. In fact, that the things that we have done today have succeeded this much is because of the leadership that the governor, substantially, that he has, provided. I give you two clear examples. One of the first things the governor told us when he became governor was that civil and public service were the engine of government. He said it again today. He's been saying it. He's been quite effusive about it. And everything he has done has taken that trajectory. So if the civil and public service, they are the engine of government, it means that if your government must run well, then you must enable the civil and public service to run well. And that's the way he has moved. The other comment he has made, which I've been quite effusive about also, is that he will be the last governor in Edo State to treat physical files. That spoke to automation and digitalization. And since he made that statement, he has pursued it. So everything that needed to be done, he has done to provide leadership at that level. But at the level of the head of service, there's also the need for you to provide leadership. And I'll give you one example. When we started this digitalization thing, it occurred to me that if we did not take some drastic moves, we may not succeed. So I reasoned and I recommended to the governor that we should have a cut-off date where we'll cut off paper from the system. Now, we tried it initially at the level of the head of service. It worked maybe just about 30-35%. So we knew that we needed to do a lot more sensitization, which we did. So when the governor took us to Kenya for a program, some of us, at one of his very good moments, he always has good moments, I mentioned to him that, sir, we need to cut off paper from the system. And he readily agreed. When we came back, we began the implementation. But what did he do? We said initially July 1st, right? Members of the team, you remember? But even before July 1st, Mr. Governor cut off paper from his own office. About 2 weeks before then, he caused a circular to be issued that there will be no paper, no more paper files coming to his office, even before the date we had proposed. So, but what happened was that at my level, I was doing some thinking. And as a leader, you have to do the thing. And that's what Professor Lakba said. We must now begin to rethink the processes of government. It's not like if we just do as it was in the beginning, it is now, forever shall it be. It will remain. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, you expect to change, the thing to change, it will not change, it will remain. So we must strategize. I used to tell my people that we are no longer a transactional service. We are now what? A strategic service. A service that is ready to look at what it has done today and prepared to take lessons from the outcomes and be prepared to ensure that there's a change about what it did today, tomorrow. So that's at that level. Now, if the advice hadn't come from me, perhaps we would not have gone the way. Just that's the point I'm making. Then at even lower levels, we have today people in the system, in the DoGov team that we call the e-Gov champions. By the way, that nomenclature was the governors. We had the transformation program in place here. And we had what the governor also called change agents. There were, they still are, people, young, talented people, young people in the ministries, departments, and agencies who we entrusted the change process to. So they were the first tenders. They were the first people who interfaced with people within their ministries, departments, and agencies when there was any question. There were questions concerning change. So when we set up the e-Gov team, when the governor set up the e-Gov team, we just brought them, some of them, into the e-Gov team. And today, they're playing the role of leaders at their level in the ministries, departments, and agencies of government. So in every ministry today, you have 2 of them. We are training them, we're teaching them to teach other people. So when there are issues about e-Gov, oftentimes, they don't come to us. They start with those people who are with them. So they understand the people, they understand the systems there, and they also know about e-Gov. So they're able to provide what they have to provide. So the long and short of it is that leadership is at different levels. If we don't understand this, we're likely to just blame somebody when the team fails. So that's the way I look at it. And every one of them must be competent and ready to work.
Okay, on this side of the house, it is time for us here to clap for you. And as the head of service has said, there are different types of levels of leadership. In other words, apart from the heads of service, you also have the permanent secretaries, you also have the directors. So now we're going to open the floor for you to participate in this conversation. So we're going to talk about your own role as permanent secretaries and directors. How do you become part of the change agent? And what are the things you think as permanent secretary you can actually help do, or as director you can help push to ensure that the service becomes a service that delivers in terms of meeting the expectations of the people? I honestly hope that most permanent secretaries and directors here I want to see hands up so that we can start the conversation very quickly. Yes? Permanent, yes, sir. Please give him the... Please, more hands. You are number 1, number 2. Yes, sir. Number 2, number 3. The lady, number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Any other? Number 7. Lady, number 8. Number 8. Number 8, the lady in red. Number 9, the gentleman with the face cap. Another lady, number 10. Number 10 wins the prize. Number 10, a lady, permanent secretary or director. At the ladies' side, nobody should complain that ladies were maltreated or marginalized. Okay. No, that's not a lady now. That's a man. Okay, then we have okay, number 10 and number 11 here. All right. Number 1.
Okay, thank you, the DG and the SL service. My colleagues in the service. My name is Felix Asingbi. I am Permanent Secretary, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning by SL State. Okay, so listening to the SL service and all that they have said, I think I want to say that in agreeing with the federal head of service, Nigeria has the potential of being the best civil service in this world. But the challenge for me, and oftentimes I quarrel when people say that the private sector is better than the public sector. For me, the public sector is supposed to be actually a better place than the private sector. The only difference and what we need to correct at our own level is the work environment, because that's where we have the challenge. And I want to thank His Excellency the Governor of Edo State for the innovative work environment, institutional transformation that he is doing in the state. That is the only problem that is making the private sector appear to be a better place or more productive than the public service. Then, if we have the political will or the political vision, I think that the public service and indeed leaders at the various levels will perform as much as any other place. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2.
Thank you, sir. I stand on the existing protocol. Ichemati Maxwell, Budget and Economic Planning, PS, River State. I want to look at my position in this form. Political leadership have failed to follow the space of continuity, because government is continuity. They come with their ideas and their programs, and they phase out the ones the previous government has established on ground. It's a problem. It's also a problem with the Brace Commission, because when you are building this stage, because there is a political will on the governors of the Brace Commission now driving this very policy you are implementing. Let me liken it to the states and the positions. I thank God for River State. His Excellency Governor Siminale Efubara is towing that line. But the predecessor has been a very serious challenge that he has just done about 5 months, which is over 1 year now. But all plans are set to go ahead. And the head of service is right standing to make sure that the will of the governor, the policy of the government, the leadership is being driven to the letter. And I believe in a very short while, because from the information I gathered, Edo and Rivers State were almost on the same page, but Edo took up, and they are just far. And Rivers State is just beginning. Because of this transition in government, I believe that with the governor we have now in a very short time, it's going to be practicable that we'll be at the stage that has been planned already.
Thank you.
Secondly, leadership in the sense of the levels as has been mentioned, the head of service, the permanent secretaries, and the directors. If programs are being pursued in that respect, because I see the leadership sometimes they will introduce the consultants, and we have very intelligent civil servants who can be gathered together and do what these consultants can do. So I want to still stress that the leadership, instead of using consultants in most of their jobs, they can train existing intelligent staffs to teach others, just like Edo head of service pointed out. Instead of looking for consultants, there are so many things the civil service can be done, despite the bureaucratic nature, bureaucracy that is in there. Because we have intelligent people. So I believe that as far as we are concerned as civil servants, we have enough good heads that can do whatever any consultancy can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number three. Number three, very quickly.
Thank you very much, our most distinguished head of service and other leaders in the room. My name is Irene Omorugiwa. I'm the permanent secretary of the Edo State Ministry of Arts, Culture and Tourism. Whilst welcoming all our guests into the state, I hope you're having a wonderful time. I would like to just throw in a few comments. I think the bane of the civil service will start from how we have been operating from time immemorial. Much has been said about that in the room. I think the focus now should be more on our data gathering system, you know, and how we analyze the things that we put together. If we, for us in Edo State, we have since realized that, and we have ensured that in everything that we do, we have put that into consideration. So I think one of the head of services, or I think one of earlier on in the day, someone spoke about, I think it was Professor Lopa, spoke about that we can move further than what we are seeing generally in the country if we do not have strengthened policies. Because that will speak to the systems, the structures, the things that we want to do. Like I was just discussing with Prof and, you know, my HOS earlier that like what we're doing in Edo State, we are proposing an enlarged public service law. What we are doing in Edo State is that we're looking at the civil service rules as it is, expanding the things that are there in line with what the federal is doing, and putting all our structures, our restructuring our system, the e-governance, the new things you're seeing, we are putting that into a policy, not just a policy, a law. Because somebody was speaking about sustainability. That will speak to the sustainability that we want to see. So if we have put all our data together, do our organizational restructuring, we do all the things that we need to do, and we put all of that into one single document, that would be a guiding principle. And that fear that we have, we're in transition in this state. But you can see now that even the governor was here today, just a few days to the end of his tenure. That doesn't happen everywhere. permit me to say, please, whether you are from Edo or not, I think you should clap for my governor. And I tell you, all that he said there, what you are hearing from the head of service, it is true. I'm a civil servant. I started from here. Thankfully, with the new way we are doing things, I have become a permanent secretary. I was a change agent at some point in time. When we had the consultant, we had the same fears that the head of service spoke about. We didn't want consultants. A lot of people to today, they have been left behind because they do not want consultants. It is consultants. What is a consultant? It's consulting with someone to help you drive what you want to do. So we have to be open about change. Put it in proper structure. That's all I see. Put this in a clear guiding, proper nomenclature. Let's have a line. Whether it's a policy, if you want to be careful, or go straight to law, and everything will be beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 4. Number 4 here, please. Number 4. Very quickly.
Ambassador Keshi, Head of Service here present, my distinguished colleagues, and heads of agencies. My name is Mr. Nyamali Joseph, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Water Resources, Edo State. At the ministerial level, leadership at ministerial level, at the ministry level, the governor is the visionary. Policies have been set, which cascades down to the ministries, and at the ministry level, we prepare guidelines and policies that will drive the vision of the governor. That is at the ministerial level. And as a permanent secretary, you should be able to identify staff or officers that are in your ministry, they will be able to drive such policy. And how do you do that? You identify them, you encourage them through motivation, training, allowing them to go to training, whether within their, how will I put it now? Their drive. Like for example, engineers, apart from JUPSA training, go for Korean and NSC training. This is how you encourage them to work and ensuring that they work as a team, so that the maximum result that is expected of them is delivered. That's at the ministerial level. Then, where the resources are so meager that it's not enough to go around, then you pick out those who are hardworking. Be able to identify those who are ready to make sacrifice and encourage them to meet departmental objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5. Number 5 behind you. Very quickly, please.
Thank you. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. Dr. Desmond Agbama is my name, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Communication and Orientation, Edo State. I want to speak to the place we are now, John Odigye Public Service Academy, JUPSA. I like to say this in parable. I will explain. Edowe ama kuima orobi biegwa. Digana kuima Mike Bay orobo dafe.
You have not sold us.
What that means, I want to explain, sir. You see, the band repeats. If it is not produced, it rests with the people. But if it is produced and it is not beaten, it rests with the king. What that implies, His Excellency Governor Obaseki has built an academy for us. Please, let's put our hands together. But if we don't use it effectively, maximally, it's not the blame of the governor. The blame rests on us. Therefore, to ensure that we help drive the process, as permanent secretary, we have to lead by example. Leading by example ensures that we attend every training that is organized for us here. And we also encourage our staff at the ministry level to come. I give you a good example. When I was made permanent secretary, an officer ran to me. PS, thank God you are here. I've never attended training in JUPSA. I said, what? What level are you? He told me. I said, okay, don't worry. So anytime there is opportunity, I will let you go. So when there's nomination, say, nominate 5 persons to attend training at JUPSA. I call the DSS. Make sure such a person attends. So that is how we encourage our people. We motivate them to in various ways. Here we have ICTA. The head of service has spoken about how computers are procured and distributed. As permanent secretary, we ensure we help facilitate that a computer gets to our officers for use after the training. So we do that as permanent secretary, and of course, back at the ministry, we have to monitor them. We have to supervise and evaluate them to show that the training they obtained here in JUPSA, they are using it at the ministry level to do their job. Through what? Performance review. We do that periodically, quarterly, throughout the year. So, talking about transparency, accountability, leadership, our governor is number 1. Before now, or before his coming, permanent secretary were appointed, will I say, based on political patronage. But since he came on board, it is through what? Merit. I say what? Merit. Competitive examination. First stage, second stage, third stage. Before you appear, before His Excellency, personally he will interview you orally. So we are the last set, and he named us Digital Permanent Secretary. The reason for that, because we were taken through ICT. We examined seriously on the use of ICT to do what? Our job, because we practice e-gov in Edo State. So before I take my seat, I want to, something I've experienced in life, because I've served in various capacities, serving people up to the traditional level I've served. There's one thing I want us to realize, and I'm writing a book on it. I call it The Dilemma of a Leader. Most times, the leaders are told what they want to hear and not the reality on ground. So that is a dilemma of a leader. So for every leader to succeed, whether as governor, as head of service, as permanent secretary, or whatever, the people should tell the leader the reality on ground, not what you want to hear because you want to be on the safe side. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Number 6. Number 6. Number 6. Number 6 has forgotten his or her number. Number 6, yes. Number 7, please get ready.
Honorable Chairman, Brace Commission, of South Head of Service present, want to thank you for this opportunity to say something. Edo State is unique because the Lord God has breathed on us the breath of peace. We are able to succeed in Edo because we have a head of service that has the quality to bring about the change. What we see now is the report card of the kind of a governor we have. Dynamic, a very focused and serious-minded leader. But these things were not able to come to be if not for this, our great head of service. He had a vision. He keyed into his vision. And he followed it with sincerity and absolute loyalty. His humility can be attested to, because it's not all leaders that will just accept you like that. These things are able to work because he demonstrated sincerity, and he also humbled himself in all ramifications. First of all was the people. He called for meetings at several times, at different times. First was indicating the classes of people to meet with. He indicated the grade levels of the people. After that, he went to a lower level, spoke to those on a higher level, spoke to those in the middle, spoke to those that were below, brought everybody to the same level, to the same state of mind. And at the end of the day, having sold the vision, we want to do something, be ready. He started with trainings. So these two things, I am saying this because we've been listening to the comments of the head of health service from other states. During the course of the lecture of Chief Olakba, he said politics and administration can both be distinct and efficient in facilitating good governance. And this is the essence of all we're talking about. Being able to give the people what they need. But so many of the people too do not know what they need. They just want to say anyhow they want to do it. But because you are at a higher plane, you have an understanding of what it should be. But I want to thank God for the peace we enjoy in Edo State. And we want to thank God for our father. Prayers is very, very important too. So my suggestion is that it is not just suggesting to the governor what you feel is right. There are certain things you have to do to buttress your views, to strengthen your zeal, your will, so that he can buy into the idea. And you must not also forget the area that finance is another constraint. So my little, thank you, a little suggestion I want to say is that let's look into these two areas of meetings and trainings.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Number 7, when you talked of prayer is important, I was afraid you say, let us pray. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
DG
very
brief
quickly.
commission, and please permit me to stand on already established protocols. What I want to say is slightly different from what we've been hearing typically in the room. So when we're in sessions like this, there's this air. Oh, forgive me, please. My name is Isaac Ebewele. So typically, when you're in a session like this, everybody just seems to be moving in one direction. But you see, the responsibility of leadership is not very easy. So we enjoy the fact that Edo is digitalized and all of that today, but the investment that got us to this place, I don't know how many state governors would be willing to make that kind of investment, because people on the streets would not readily see that kind of investment. And like they say in the political space, they want to eye-mark the project that you are doing. So it takes real courage to move in the direction we have moved in. So let's have that kind of understanding behind our minds. It's not small investment, it's a lot of investment financially and even emotionally, because the people on the street will ask you a lot of questions when they don't see where all of the money you're making is going into, because the benefit and outcomes of all of these things we're speaking of today may not necessarily be seen today, but rather will be seen in the near future. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the role of consultants, right? Typically, when consultants come, we're seen like, they're seen like foreign bodies, right? And nobody enjoys foreign bodies in their system. But if we see consultants positively and accept them with an open mind, we'll share experiences, we'll learn from one another, and we co-create solutions that will be good for the betterment of the state and even the service that the consultants have come to support. And always bear in mind that the stay of a consultant is very temporary. It's very temporary. They will spend some time and they would leave you. Within that time they are with you, draw from their experiences, draw from their exposure, and make the best of it to improve yourself, because after some time you also leave the service and probably you could also become a consultant like some of our permanent secretaries are in Edo State today. Lastly, there was one thing I said I was going to talk about, but I can't readily remember now. Okay, good, I remember. So before we got to where we are in Edo State, there were quite a bit of things that happened. Today, I thought I would have heard a lot about the Edo Step project, but maybe somehow we missed talking about the Edo Step project. So the Edo Step project. Okay, so I step it down then. All right, so when you deliver the paper, they talk about Edo Step. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 8. I think number 8 is a lady. Yeah, good.
Good afternoon, everybody. Permit me to stand on already established protocol. I am Dr. Ewe Rita Samurupa, the Chief Scientific Officer, but I choose to speak as the change champion that the head of service have talked about. EGOV change champion and change agent. I'm one of them. And I want to start what I'm about to say with these quotable quotes by our digital head of service, Dr. Antonio Saukumbawa Esquire. He said, we are no longer going back to Egypt. Not going back to Egypt. And don't drop the ball. With that, we took off as a change champion to ensure that the necessary change and transformation that was planned and desired by the state government were implemented. You know, there were a lot of, like you said, word round. I'll call it MDA round. A lot of MDA round that were planned. So many planning. It took some time. There were encouragements along the line. You know, you visit MDA. At first, let me share my experience as a change champion in some of the MDAs. When we got there and we are taking them on this EGOV training, you know, some of the comments they make is that, people, you are well paid now, you are private, you are consultants, you are eating our money. But by the time we tell them, no, we are not consultants, we are civil servants like you. I'm from Ministry of Environment and Sustainability. Look at my designation, I'm one of you. So they will open up, receive you, tell you their challenges, and they want to learn. So using the change champions among the civil servants did a lot of magic. And I don't know how the HOA came about it, the governor came about it, but it works. They will open their mind, they will want to learn, they want to ask questions, they want to give you feedback, and those feedback had a way of helping in, you know, updating and remodeling of the EROP. It did a lot of work. So no, by the time we go with this, and when we went with this mindset, not going back to Egypt, and we are not dropping the ball, we got a lot of results. But all these results did not just come overnight. There were the roles of, you know, like you said, like what has been said, there are different levels of leadership. As a change champion, I was a leader in that area. The digital head of service was a leader, and even the governor too is a leader. They had their roles that they played. And one of such roles was motivation. You know, everybody can attest to it that we are one of the best paid in Nigeria. Motivation has been 40% minimum wage to 70%. When you are motivating your staff, they can go extra mile for you to get results for you. Not just apart from the 70% minimum wage. The environment, the work environment is so conducive that you don't even know when it's 6 o'clock. You are not got to leave because there is enough light to work, there is internet, there's laptop. The working environment is very, very conducive. Then to add to that, there are motivations that every year, the best staff is, you know, they are encouraged, they are rewarded. Best hands are employed, and you get your promotion as at when due. And you don't just get because it's time for you to be promoted. No. Gone are those days when you do that. There is a CBD test, computer-based test, in which everyone must participate. And after that, there's an oral test. So you know you are looking forward to your next promotion. You work towards it. It's on merit. Best hands, automatic promotion for the first class graduate. All these are incentives that come into play in the civil service to encourage and to move the transformation forward. And there is communication. I'm sure we'll all bear with me that this time, most times, we get a lot of circulars. Every now and then, we are all communicated to in what is happening. If there's no communication, you don't really, there's a lot of communication going on, and there's training and retraining. I want to commend the state government, I want to commend the head of service, and DG JOBSA. When you get to JOBSA for your training, they encourage you to give feedback. And with that feedback, when you are coming back for this training again next time, you see they've updated, they've upgraded. It is not the way you left them yesterday that you meet them. So they've been training, and everybody have been assured no loss of job. With all these being put together, transformation has been very seamless. Thank you. Thank you.
Number 10. Yeah, I told you number 11. Number 10. Yes. Oh, number 9. Okay, number 9, number 10, number 11. Number 9. Oh, yes, sorry. I've canceled 9 earlier. Number 9. Where's 9? Where's 9? I said no put hand again.
The chairman, sir, please permit me to stand on the already established protocol.
You're already standing.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Nahimion, Permanent Secretary, Office of the SSG. I want to take it from the angle of the supposed resistance of civil servants to change, because it has continued to re-echo and re-echo over the time whenever issues of civil servants come up. I want to say that when we talk about change, civil servants, they are not amenable. Society is dynamic. Change is the only thing that is very dynamic. And the civil servant is not immune to change. However, when there is a change, or when there's something to be changed, you have to ensure that it is done strategically. Like my head of service will always say, that Edo State ways of doing things is no longer transactional, but strategic. So if we must drive change, the change must be strategic. In this sense, you let the public servant, you let the worker, the civil servant, know his interest, the interest of the state, the interest of the general public. Because we are meant to serve the public. That is why we are here. By the time you are able to take them through, you let them know, understand what they stand, the reason for the change. First of all, you don't just drive a change because a state is driving the change. Big state has to drive the change. No. You have to do your gap. Check whether you have the gap that you need to fill. Then that will now lead you to the reason for the change. Then you take it from there. By the time you let them know, this is the gap we have in our service. This is the reason, the benefits that will accrue to this state if we take on these changes. You will see the civil servants will readily buy into it, just like we experienced in Edo State. Yes, of course, when Mr. Governor, first of all, talked about this idea of digitalization of the public civil services, we had some, of course, mild resistance, some subtle resistance, some Cold War, some persons that pretended to be used to be computer, but they never taught the laptop. They never taught the whatever, giving systems given to them. But today, because along the line, they were told, they were put through on the gains that will accrue. First of all, the timeline for you to finish your job, the less stress, the economic interest, the values, and the speed, accountability. By the time the average civil servant in the public officer in Edo State got to understand the benefits of this change, everybody developed interest. Even those of us from the you know, I used to, from the old to the new, started developing interest. And before you knew it, today, like the head of service, our head of service said, you cannot go into any office and you see a file. No. I belong to the old generation, old and the new generation. And that is my God there, the head of service, Delta State, when it was Bendel. So, taking it from there, I want to quickly advise from here that for the sister states that have not keyed into it, you have a lot to gain. The service, your service, they have a lot to gain. Your state has a lot to gain because it promotes accountability. It promotes efficiency. It promotes effectiveness when you key into this digitalization of the civil service. Thank you.
Okay, number 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 11.
I'm 11. No, that was 10. We didn't find 9.
All right. Go ahead, please. Number 11.
Chairman, sir, I'm standing on all existing protocols. I would read a comment from LinkedIn and then I would ask my question. So Akibon Edits, watching us live, has said, the public civil service cannot be better than the private sector for several reasons. Firstly, there is stability of leadership within the private sector, and the business owner defines the culture within the workplace and sustains and defines the vision. In the public sector, it's different. Frequent changes in leadership, political interference with leadership of the public sector, sacrificing professional competence on the altar of politics. The need to strengthen institutions and enforce professionalism, otherwise nothing will change. So that's his own opinion. Because I put up my hand when you said where were the women, and of course I put up my hand, and that leads me to my question. I'm just curious, and I really would like to know, the head of service is very familiar with the question I'm about to ask, around inclusion. I don't know if across the states there's any sort of strategic thinking around having more women in public sector leadership. Again, I don't know. I've been told that it just happens. But I think I'm looking at the data. I'm very blessed to work at JUPSA. We've trained over 12,000 people. So we are now disaggregating. And we're seeing, and we're of course seeing that we still have more male than female, and numbers do not lie. So I'm just wondering, across the region, are we ready for conversations around having processes that throws up more women as leaders in the civil and public service? Thank you.
I will pose that question to the head of service of Delta to start.
Thank you, His Excellency. And once again, a good evening to all my colleagues. The way I'll answer the question is, I don't want to say that there is a systematic process, but I can say that there's a systematic consciousness to ensure that women occupy top leadership positions. And I'll give you an example. The immediate past governor, when we had opportunity to appoint permanent secretaries, he took that conscious decision that among the women at senior leadership position who were competent and qualified, that a sizable proportion were female. That's the way, and it also goes down the line. But incidentally, in Delta State, although I don't have the figures off my head now, there is, despite not that consciousness, there is a close match between male and female employees. And in fact, in some sectors, there are more women, both at leadership and down the rank in the workforce. Thank you.
Is that the same in Rivers?
Yes. And for us women in Rivers, we don't like handouts. We deserve where we are because we are good. We are even better. So, because we...
Women are not clapping to that.
Yes. And we stand out. Where we are, we stand out. Anywhere you find us, we stand out. So opportunities are given to the women to head MDAs to be made permanent secretaries. I'm here with a female colleague and a male here at this meeting here. So we have 2 female permanent secretaries, a male permanent secretary, and the rest are directors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Edo. How many women do you have as permanent secretaries and directors?
My sister Imuahe knows that I don't like this question. My belief is that the service is gender neutral. And we must ensure that that's the case at all times. For us in Edo, just like Data said, there's a close proximity in terms of the number you have as far as males vis-a-vis females are concerned. But there's a slight preponderance of the male in terms of number. But as permanent secretaries, it's almost the same. There are several permanent secretaries who are female. But I think the bottom line is not to give an undue advantage to any gender. Because the permanent secretaries that we have who are female, they were subjected to the same tests and examinations that the male permanent secretaries took. And they came out excellently well. So, but where you do not have an objective basis for appointment, you would have the rule of the thumb. Okay, well, let's appoint more men, let's appoint more women, and all of that. It's the same training that men have that women also have in the system. And in fact, from what we are seeing, women are doing marvelously well in their areas where they're, so it's not a question of giving them an advantage over. We must begin to think in the direction, as we're going in Edo, of a neutral gender kind of approach to these issues. But I don't know if I can respond to a few things that have been said. Do you give me the liberty, sir? Okay. One of the things that we've done in Edo, and I'm sure that my brother states can also learn from that, we have tried to partner with the organized labor. We stopped it for some time, but we're doing it regularly. We used to have quarterly pallies with the organized labor. What that did for us, especially at the beginning of these things were happening on the ground, because it was not really known to the entirety of the service, just the labor and then those of us who are in the office of the head of service. We would sell our ideas to them. We would have a platform to interrogate those ideas. And we will gauge the feelings and pulses of our people from our interactions with them. Because oftentimes, if you want to know how the people are thinking, talk to labor. When we succeed in convincing labor, it is labor oftentimes that goes out to tell their people that this is the new way of doing things. So when we get to our people, eventually to talk to them, labor would have done a lot of groundwork. And sometimes you see that things, so I just thought I should mention that. One of the questions, in fact, the most important question that I get asked now is sustainability. And so I'm not surprised that question came. How do we sustain this project beyond this administration that has given it so much vent, so much support, so much feeling to make it work? Permanent Secretary Irene mentioned that we're doing a law. Yeah, we're doing that. But in reality, and I've mentioned this to her and to our colleagues, a law on its own cannot ensure sustainability without more. But it can do a lot. Why do I say it cannot ensure sustainability? I was Director of Legal Drafting in the Ministry of Justice at some point, and as a legal draftsman, trained legal draftsman, I was responsible for drafting bills for legislations. And I recall that once a law that has spent nearly 80 years in existence was changed in less than 1 hour. The former deputy governor, who was majority leader at the point, came to our office with the AG. We're in the office, we were drafting a change. The house was sitting, they were waiting for us. And in 1 hour, they changed the law because they didn't want it. So, in reality, the law without more will not ensure sustainability. But law will help. Now, one of the things I tell my people is that you lock your door in your house, not because armed robbers cannot get into the house. In my own area, you lock your door, they dig a wall in your fence, and they get in. So you lock your door, you're just wasting time. But the truth is, if you lock your door, you make it difficult for them to come in. Not that it can stop them ultimately. So the time it will take them to dig the hole and all of that is not the time it will take them if you didn't lock your door at all. So a law, yes, will contribute because it will take a while. Even some people will say, there are NGOs around now, so people will say, why are you changing this law and all of that? So it will help, but it's not a complete bar to any change. So what will help us? First, what we did in Edo, the fact that we stopped paper, that was deliberate and intentional. And we did it in our thinking at least 1 year before the new administration will take over. The thinking was, if we have used electronic way as the only way of working for 1 year, consistently without an alternative, that was why we took that decision. The next administration will have no choice. The next government that comes in now will have to go and learn if he doesn't already know how to do computer. He doesn't have a choice. So pulling back on it is not something that is going to be easy. The second point is that we have sold this thing in the hearts and minds of our people. I tell you the truth. There was an officer who said to us over her dead body, she would not be able to use in fact, she used to tell us that it's another generation, that she's not of this generation. You know, but with hard work and with constant talking to, that woman today teaches others how to do it. So we have sold this to people, and they're not the ones driving it. That was the whole essence of sensitization and all of that. And they have also seen that the fears they have, one of which was that it will result in job losses. And that hasn't happened. For 2 years, nobody has lost his job because he doesn't know how to use the computer. No. If you didn't know, we would train you. That's why Muwahe is here. That's why CTA is here. That's why MDET, Ministry of... thank you. That's why they are here. They are doing a yeoman's job, ensuring that the training that is required to be given is given. So, ultimately, with all of these working together, with the grace of God, we know that there's not going to be a pullback. But someone who said political headship, I agree. So all of you know what to do when it comes to what I'm not telling you anything, but in reality, when you go to the pool that day, you will look at your interest and the interest of the service when you have voted. You can vote anyway, but it is what convinces you, who convinces you that all the things that have been done so far. It can be anybody. When you're convinced that one person will have that interest, you can vote for that person. That's what I think. But I'm not telling you to vote for any particular person. Finally, one of the things we have also done, which I'm sure will help us, brother heads of service, we have designed a strategic way of managing performance. Unlike what it used to be when it didn't matter whether A contributed to the success of an organization or an establishment or not, it didn't matter. When others were promoted, he was also promoted. But there's a change now. Now, your offerings, what you contribute to the growth and development of your establishment, determine whether you are promoted or not. And these are things that we have not even put in our laws, in our rules. So in moving forward, we ensure that there's a significantly different way of managing performance. So, and all of these things, are building up the psyche and then whatever is happening in the service to welcome, this new way, of doing things. And then finally, investment. Okay, there's been a lot of investment in digital governance, a lot. And like Isaac said, digital infrastructure is not cheap. I must say that. It's not cheap. And then the unfortunate thing, which is a huge disincentive to that investment, is the fact that you can't, like he said, you can't iMac digital infrastructure so much. Digital infrastructure that will cost maybe 2 billion, you can just put it in the car and walk away. Yeah. So people don't like that kind of, no, leaders, political leaders don't like that kind of investment. The reason for it is that it's not this typical investment where you have infrastructure, physical infrastructure that people can relate with, and then tomorrow they want to vote, they are considering that. So only very strong leaders can invest in such digital infrastructure. And happily, we have a governor who is quite strong. However, digital investment is the future of the country. And so the responsibilities on us, heads of service, haven't seen what is happening. What we have simply done, not only for ourselves, we have demonstrated that it is possible. So you take this back, tell your chief executives that this is possible. Edo has done it. We didn't have the benefit of a precedent, but you have the benefit of a precedent. We, winked in the dark, but you now have the benefit of what has been done and how successful that can be. So you can take it back and then advise your different CEOs. Okay, the final thing I would like to say, forgive me, finally. Workplace environment, that was the very first question I was asked. The truth is this, I agree with you that if you have a comfortable workplace environment, like we have in Edo, that is virtually second to none, not just the aesthetics of it, but the quality of the work equipment. There's no office today that there's no AC that is working. There's no office today, in fact, in the secretariat, in all of our offices, it is Osiomon, private power, IPP, and it is nearly 24/7. You have internet. It is working nearly 24/7. And so you find that many of our workers, they don't even want to go home. But what you saw before now was a frustrated worker. A worker who wasn't paid his salaries as when due. Today, we get paid our salaries by 26th of the month. We even get it 13th month. Today, January 2024 promotions have been approved by the government. I don't think there's anywhere in this country that has happened. So you have, no, I say I don't think. So if you have done it, no problem. But I'm just telling you, yeah. Now, what has that done for us in Edo? Unlike the civil servant, you see, and this is where people don't know. When the governor said the civil service is the engine of government, he was intentional about it. There is nothing that government does for the people that voted into power that it doesn't do through the civil service. If it is going to be work on the environment, it is through the civil service. It is, even if it's going to be collection of taxes, it is through the civil or public service. So oftentimes you find that the impressions that the people have when they deal with the civil service are the impressions that they have of government. So if they tell you that government is bad, it means that the civil servant is bad. That's why they call us civil servants behind us. So what the governor has done is to ensure that when the civil servant works, because everything the civil servant, when he works, all of those things he suffers. If he doesn't have AC in his office, you'll see it on his face. If he's not paid the salary, you'll see it on his face. If he has to, as we were doing, travel distances to go to toilets, look for eateries around, that's what we're doing. Because toilets were not good. Not to buy anything, but just to go to their toilet. If he does that, it will show on his face when he relates with the people. So, but when all of these have been done for him, he's confident to relate with the people. And the people see a different civil servant, not the evil servant that they used to see. So that's why government must prioritize investment in the civil servant. So I thought I should leave it here. Thank you. God bless you.
Yes.
Okay, for Bayelsa State, there is no deliberate policy to put women in positions of authority, because like for PAMSEX, it's based on merit. However, we have quite a number of females as PAMSEX and as directors and as heads of parastatals. So we have a lot of female. Then, well, I must congratulate those states. And I also see that among the brave states, I think we're doing well, because when I hear what you have said and I compare it to mine, I think we're all doing very well. In my state too, we pay salaries quite early on time. Our work environment too is beautiful. And I have a governor who has a listening ear to the head of service. He is so concerned about the civil servants. So I think that the brave states were trying. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think we are talking about women in position of authority in the service. I don't think there is any public service rule that enhances women taking position. But even without intentional move to elevate women, in Akwa Ibom State, I'm even worried because I see the male workers being endangered. When you compare the number of women who have come up now, I have more permanent secretary female than the male. When I take statistics of the service, I have more women in the service than men. And the women do exceptionally better than men. And they emerge on their own, not by any prompting or any intentional arrangement to bring them up. I think the issue is women like asking. They will keep on asking. Even when they have more, they keep on asking. You realize that a female permanent secretary who is married to a male director will always ask the male director to give. And he will have to give. So it's not that women are disadvantaged in the service. I don't think there's any state that has arrangement to disadvantage of the female worker. So the women need to continue, to do even better than the men, and they would emerge as leaders in the service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We should be rounding up now, and I just want to pass a comment on one or two issues before I ask my last question. And the first has to do on the issue of the use of consultants. Let me share this with each and every one of you. I once served for 12 years after my retirement in the bank as a director of the bank, UBA. And I can tell you that every strategic meeting to engineer a change in the organization, we use consultants. We used consultants. We actually hold some meetings outside the country, and we use the best consultants in the world to help us shape our vision. It's not something anybody can do. This is what the likes of McKinsey are trained to do. This is what the likes of McKinsey are trained to do. And it is because the banks, the private sector, the Dangotes of this world, they cannot take one strategic step without using a consultant. And believe me, you do not want to know how much they pay these consultants. You do not want to know. So I'm making an appeal because some of you here, or all of you, are going to be the future leaders of the service. Disabuse your mind about consultants. You need them. You need them to help you shape your vision. It's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to find people who can help you actualize that vision and the steps, you need to take. The second thing I want to say here, and which I've heard so much about the investing, and I hear states like Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, my home state of Delta, they shouldn't be talking of the challenge of investment. They earn more than Edo states. So they should be able to prioritize the fact that, look, the future we are describing, the future that is coming, it's one that, whether you like it or not, you have to begin to digitalize today, not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. The rest of the world has left us. They are talking of AI, and we are talking of digitalization here. No. It is an investment that is inevitable. And I urge all heads of service, when you get back home, please make sure that every day you sound it to the ears of your leaders, that tomorrow might be too late. Now is the time. And you already have an example you can cite and you can call for help. Edo State, which is exactly what Blaze is supposed to do. You share ideas, you share knowledge, and this is why we are here. And the last one, of course, is the issue of change of policy, writing policy. What we do not realize in the region or in the states is that the more you depend on the federal government, the more you cede your powers to the center. And some of us are in the fight that, no, the center should cede power to the states. You must begin to write your own laws and don't wait for and say until federal changes its laws, you will not know. As a state, I'm sure you have enough people, and based on your own environment, that you can write the laws of your civil service. Particularly now that, you are changing quite a lot of things. In the old book, there's no digitalization, for example. But things are changing. And so you can all put a team together and, write your policies. And my last comment is that, sirs, believe it or not, you really need to identify change agency organization and effectively use them to effect any change that you want to put in place. And that is also one of the ways it can be sustained. I'll say this to my brother from Delta State. Under the last administration of, Udoga, I don't know whether you were aware that at one point, he was having meetings with some members of the private sector from Delta State in Lagos. I attended some of these meetings. And one day, we held a lot of conversation on sustainability. And for the whole part of the conversation, I was smiling. And then he said to me, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Echi, we talk after." And immediately we finished. I said to him, "Echi, I want to have a conversation with you." He said, no, he was going to Abuja for an operation. And I said, "I'm also traveling back to Abuja." I said, "Come to the house," so I went. And he said, "What's the problem?" I said, "Okay, we spent 4 hours discussing sustainability of your program. I have bad news for you. It will not work. Nothing will be sustained." He got upset. He said, "What do you mean? You see how many hours we spent on it?" I said, "Oh God, listen now. Listen is very easy. You came from Asaba to discuss with members of the private sector. You do not bring one civil servant. Who will sustain it for you?" I said, "Who will sustain it for you?" I said, okay, in case you do not know, what civil servants do not like, they kill. It's true. What civil servants do not like, they kill. I said, let me tell you, we discussed a lot of our agriculture. I said, when you finish your tenure and a new governor comes, the governor will say to the PAMSEC agri, I heard there were these meetings on Delta without oil. So where are the papers that was prepared on agriculture? The permanent secretary has this in his locker. And he said to the governor, I was not in Lagos, so I didn't attend the meeting. They were holding meeting in Lagos. But the report is in his locker. So, you know, this man, the governor looked at me and said, look, the next meeting is in Warri. You must come. Unfortunately, I was out of the country. But I ran into Bismarck at the airport, and Bismarck said to me, Joe, you go tell governor, say our work good is sustainable. I said, you yourself, you don't know. No, you don't look. To be candid, haven't gone to the two sides. Give you an opportunity, I'll still come back to the civil service. Believe it or not. No, I'm being frank with everybody. I'm being frank with everybody. But we must make the service work. We must make the service effective. And we must make the service efficient. And that's why I come back with the last question. Not a question, but a commitment that I want the heads of service gathered here today to make. Number one, that you prioritize training for your staff. Number two, that Edo has digitalized and it took them about 2 years. That will leave Benin with a Benin declaration that in 2 years' time, every state in the region will be paperless in working. And number three, that everything we can do to motivate the staff, that we can do, including new salary structure, because again, I make the point, Akwa Ibom, Delta, and Bayelsa can pay their civil servants very well. Do we get that commitment? No, from here. Delta first. Please, the mic. If you are from Delta, listen to the commitment so that you can be reminding him when you get back home.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, first, the issue of training.
Yes.
I didn't speak extensively. We've done quite a lot in that area now. We're still going to do more. And in line with the more agenda of the current governor. And I'm sure one of the commitments he gave when he was campaigning, which is fulfilling, is that he was going to prioritize training. And he is wanting to institute merit-based criteria across the board, so that I can say. And I've given him a tip. For instance, you spend several billions on infrastructure, roads, schools, hospitals, but it's the human beings that run it. If you take a fraction, even just 0.00 something percent, and devote it to training, you'll see a lot of difference. And I think it's nodding towards that direction. And by God's grace, he will get there. We'll support him to get there. The second one is digitalization. Yes, of course. We've gone to a certain length in that area, but we fell short. I mean, I won't shy away from that, by the volume of investment that is needed there. But like you said, compared to what Edo State is doing, is really something we can afford. But I'm sure with the support of Commissioner and people like you as well too, we'll get our governor to do that, and I'll commit to that. Then in terms of motivation, I was listening to my colleague talked about interfacing with labor. It's something that's been happening with us right from time. That you see, to a large extent, we have a good relationship with labor because we take them along and they drive it eventually at the end of the day. But in terms of the general staffing thing, and I was a bit surprised when he said the governor approves promotion. That ends on my table. And even the governor had given a matching order such that we have two promotional cycles, January and July. As much as possible, we don't exceed that except you have cases that will not warrant that. Then, in terms of soft motivations for our civil servant, beyond the issues of training and all the rest, we have a lot of single-digit soft loan schemes for housing, vehicles, and housing renovation as well. Just depends on your category. You can access those. And there are also a number of schemes too, because we also have IPP for our offices, a very good working environment. I'm sure, sometimes it's the people who have come. We had a team from the heads of service of the federation who saw the secretariat. State of the art. State of the art. You can very, 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 very good environment. Like you said, a lot of workers don't even want to go home because some that come out, it's already 6:30. I can't imagine that such will happen. Typical civil servant who want to hurry off to go and do something else. Then we also have a number of schemes too, very soft loan schemes to motivate the workers, where people have challenges in terms of power. We encourage them green energy, where they can own a solar system, and many others. I can't even recall now. But I was also talking in terms of, my colleague was asking me, our staff grew up to level 17. Then we see some officers, because, of course, when you get to the top, you can't advance further, except there's real vacancy. And very recently, we also tried to encourage just to retain them too, for those who are worth it. Those who have spent quite a number of years and with no hope of rising to 17, we award them grade level 17 at the end of the day. Then talking of minimum wage, well, it's for the governor. Of course, he says they review their positions with their peers. He is obviously aware of what Edo State is doing. He has said it. I don't know. I'll put it this way, because it's a pronouncement that will come to him, that is going to surprise the workers pleasantly when the minimum wage is determined. And that's why I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commitment?
For training, our government, the governor has stated that he will prioritize training. And we are beginning this July with training of permanent secretaries and directorate cadre staff. That is starting this July, and it will cascade down to the lower grade levels. Talking about paperless, every state paperless in 2 years, the River State government started the digitization process, but along the line, we had some issues with the World Bank and the contractor. They engaged. And this morning, we were talking about the World Bank and the contractor they imposed on the states. The contractor could not deliver. That is why we are where we are. So we are hoping that within this 2-year window, I've been talking with my colleague in Edo, within this 2-year window, already in Rivers, we are making arrangements. The permanent secretary that I came with, one of them is the permanent secretary in charge of ICT. So she's here with me. And they have put up proposals for the further digitization of the service. And we are hoping to go paperless. I was asking, I have borrowed some leave from my colleague in Edo, because we want to start digitizing our files in establishments, because that for us is very key. If we can succeed with establishment, then other areas will be a piece of cake. For motivation, we know that our governor surprised us last year. He gave us an award, everybody from the lowest level to the highest level. He gave every staff 100,000 for Christmas. That was last year. And this year, during the labor, he was telling the labor union leaders during the May Day celebrations that it's not like he cannot pay minimum wage. That whatever is agreed upon, he will pay. That he's just waiting for the negotiations to come to an end. Whatever is decided, Rivers will pay. And promotions, for our state, we are lacking behind for some years. The last time we had promotions was 2013. The governor, as he came up, as he was sworn in, he promoted staff till 2022. So we are hoping that by this year, we'll run promotions to be at par with the date. So that's what, there was a lot of rot in the system. So he's working hard to correct that. And you talk of motivation too. He has promised that he's going to overhaul the state secretariat complex. He has said it. So the state secretariat complex is really, for our state complex, it's in a bad state, but the governor has promised
that.
The governor has promised to do a total renovation, and he has started with water access to water in the system, in the secretariat complex. We are lacking water for some years, but now we have water in the secretariat complex. So he's looking at things that will motivate people to work. Power supply, we have an arrangement now. The power supply, we had an arrangement with PHED. We are having 22 hours power supply to the state secretariat complex. And that is a special arrangement that just started this month last month, June. We started that power supply. So we don't run generators, we just use the public power supply, and we have 22 hours power supply. That's we are in the band A, as they say. Then other incentives, he promised that he will motivate staff that are interested to go for higher qualifications. He will encourage them to obtain further qualifications if they are interested. Those that are interested, he will motivate them by helping them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I skip you again to Bayelsa. I'm sure you understand. Yeah. Bayelsa.
For Bayelsa State, we've been doing a lot of retraining from the lowest to the most senior people. It's a regular thing that we do, training and retraining. And then recently, His Excellency got us a bigger edifice for the Public Service Training Institute. That's where we're going to be training more persons. He's still working on it. So hopefully, I'm sure before the end of the year, that place would have been completed. Then the digitalization, like I said, the process, the conversation is on. And I'm sure very soon, we will go paperless too.
No, 2026.
Huh?
2026.
Yes, before 2026, I'm sure. Because he has promised that his second tenure this time around is going to really focus on the civil service. Then for motivation, for the minimum wage, he said once the federal is settled, he's going to go ahead, because most times, whatever the federal pays, we always follow suit in terms of minimum wage. So that is not a problem, but for now, we have like a wage award for every civil servant, and also to ease the burden on civil servant because of the economic crunch. We also have 2 farm days. Every civil servant has 2 farm days. So you come to work 3 days, especially for those below grade level 15. You come to work 3 times in a week. And then our secretariat complex, he has also promised, and I'm sure it will be done, to add more buildings to our secretariat complex For power, we're getting connected to the local content. We have a NCDMB board where they have power and they promise to connect the secretariat complex. But right now, almost every building is running a generator. So we're hoping that that will be done. I think generally there's a lot of motivation. Salaries are paid, pensions are paid regularly. We pay gratuity for other trainings. You want to go on study leave, there is no limit. We allow civil servants to apply and go on study leave with pay. So we do all that and even more. I think that we're a motivated workforce in Bayelsa State.
Thank you. In Akwa Ibom State, in terms of training, is a continuous process. I've mentioned here that we have concluded arrangement for ASCON to come and train our permanent secretaries and directors. And apart from doing that, His Excellency, the governor is very intentional about retaining this arrangement in the state, not outsourcing the training of the public servants. He has included in his next quarter plan to completely overhaul, renovate, and improve on our civil service training center. We have a civil service training center. It's not up to the standard of the academy that we have here or an institute. We want to raise the standard to the level of an academy or an institute so that we can internalize training of public servants. And in terms of digitization, we have gone for this. We have digitized all our establishment records. The personnel record in establishment have been digitized. The only thing we are working on now is the workplace environment, to be able to have the infrastructure that enables us to maximize that system that have already been installed. To start with, His Excellency is about to commission an independent power supply to the State Secretariat, a gas-powered generator that will provide 24/7 power supply to the State Secretariat. And he has also directed on renovating some of the secretariats. We have other, like the one we call the Governor's Office Annex. He wants to pull it down and make a smart secretariat there on the way to the state government house. And in terms of salary, I think Akwa Ibom State is better than any other state because the last minimum wage, the 2019 minimum wage, Akwa Ibom State paid above the national minimum, and I even paid with arrears of that minimum wage. It is expected that the new minimum wage that is being discussed as it's concluded that Akwa Ibom State would not lag behind in terms of adopting or domesticating the approved new minimum wage. In terms of motivation of staff, His Excellency pays, last December he paid a 13-month. This about last week, the public service week that we ended on the 23rd of last month, he announced a huge salary award to the 52,000 public servants that we have in the state. When I talk of public servants, I talk of the civil servants, I talk of the local government service workers, and the primary school teachers. So he announced a salary award to the workers. So the workers that are well motivated to work. By the time we have one or two things to add to what we have already done in terms of the software system that we have already installed for the digitization of the public service. By the time we have 247 power and have internet connection, I think we'll also match up with Edo State in terms of e-governance, because e-governance is part of His Excellency's Arise agenda in Akwa Ibom State. And we're getting there. We'll be there very soon.
Well, we've come almost to the end of this interactive session. The head of the service of Edo State is going to, Edo State is going to have the last say. But heads of service, I want to thank each and every one of you. This has been very interesting and very enlightening. And the insights that you have shared with us, it gives us the confidence that with a little bit more effort, that the region, will begin to see a lot of progress and changes in the civil service. Because look, the civil service is the engine of government. And if the civil service is effective, is efficient in terms of service delivery, nobody will complain about the government, and that's the honest truth. And to the audience here, I've been looking out to see whether anybody was tired and dozing. But interesting thing that everybody has actually kept eyes, and nobody's eyes rested. And I think I should commend you all for this. It's honestly very interesting. I guess because we have not eaten pounded yam, I guess that's why. All right, so you have the floor and the last say, and thank you for again this initiative, and I think this has been very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Ambassador. Let me also use the opportunity to thank my brother heads of service from the Press States. Thank you for coming, and our colleagues on the other side. Thank you for not getting tired, even though we've had to be here since 9 o'clock. So thank you and God bless you. Just a few things. I didn't want to forget this. One of the things that we have done is that I don't know how many of us have the health insurance scheme in a different state. That's very important. It has helped greatly in reducing the cost of health management as far as our staff is concerned. It's something we must look into. And of course, with the what they call it, contributory insurance scheme, we have the life assurance for all workers. And that's why sometimes we suffer the misfortune of a civil servant dying, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the beneficiaries actually get their debt entitlements. So that's something we should look into as well. And one thing that we're doing here is that we're creating hubs. So one of the things we've found in governance, and which has been a very difficult nut to crack, is the fact that there are several moving parts. Everybody seems to be working on his own. You don't find synergy, you don't find collaboration. It's been very difficult for us here. So what the governor has done is to build hubs. We have, for instance, the Agri Hub. I'm sure in the course of our visitation we'll go there, which houses all the MDAs that are Agri-based. And so that gives the opportunity of proximity and synergy to work together. We also have the Build Spaces Environment Hub, which is the former water board, now very well refurbished, wearing a new look, Sapler Road, that houses physical planning, GIS, and all of that. So that again gives the opportunity to network. Then we also have the Education Hub, which is almost being completed. It's a beautiful structure that is there from the ashes of the old burnt one, and that will house all the education-based MDAs. So this is something that the government is strategically doing to ensure synergy, collaboration in the system. I will just briefly talk about the consultant thing. The truth is you can't avoid external consultants in the system if you have to do well. That interplay, that interface, that relationship between the private sector and the public service must continue to happen for the benefit of the public service. In fact, for the benefit of both sides, because those who have worked with us on transformation of the service, I'm sure they have a good story to tell, and that's helping them as well to do other things that they are now doing. So that's something that we need to continue to do. But one of the things that we have tried to do to remove that unhappy relationship is the fact that we're now deliberately employing retired permanent secretaries as consultants. So if you say consultants are not good, when you retire, you're appointed, what happens? Now we have about 5 of them on board now. We have Wasa, we have Abode, we have Peter, we have, who else? Yeah, about 5 of them on board. And we're planning to employ more. So as to just remove that suspicion and all that as a way of doing that. Then finally, they say if you want to fall on the moon or one of the stars, you aim for the sun. So I agree with you, sir, that we have given ourselves a commitment of 2 years. Even if we're not able to do it in 2 years, what is important is that we show commitment. There's a lot of investment, like I said. Even in reality, we didn't do it in 2 years because there was a part of it that we haven't talked about. The issue of the provision of broadband that May1 had to do for us. That took some time before the last 2 years. So another investment that we had to do, now Genicel is in it. Genicel has helped us extend our fiber optics to all the 18 local government areas of Edo State. And I'm sure we are the only state in this country right now that is connected completely throughout the 18 local government areas by fiber optics, government-owned fiber optics. That's something that will also take some time. So what I'm saying is that you just have to start. Sometimes you have to, give yourself this kind of deadline so that, like they say, if you aim for the sun, you don't get to it, you can fall on the moon or you fall on any of the stars. That's something we should do. So I want to thank all of you for finding time to be here. We hope that tomorrow you'll come again. Thank you and God bless.
Please, can we have the photographer? The DG Gypsa will join them. Wife of Ambassador, Mrs. Keshi, please, can you join them? I'd like you to state by your husband. Just hold on a while, please. This way. Please, heads of agencies, we apologize. We didn't include you in the first instance of the photograph. Please, you are to join. Only heads of agencies. The permanent secretaries have taken already. Heads of agencies, please. Bring it down a little. Heads of agencies, please, can we have you? Agencies and parastatals. Please, some of you can stay on the floor. Let's remember where we are. We'll take the national anthem. DJ, please. The national anthem, please. Don't forget, 9 o'clock, we're coming back here. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock on the dot. DJ, please. National anthem.
Thank you so much for being patient. We can't even believe it's 6 o'clock. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do have dinner downstairs. Some of them packed. If you want to eat here, is also fine. And then we resume here tomorrow at 8. We start with medicals. We also have some people doing free eye checks and giving away replacement glasses. So you might want to take advantage of that if you need that. Please be here at 8. Tomorrow we have Uncle Steve Oronsaye. He's going to be delivering the keynotes. He has touched down Benin. I just got that message. And Dr. Joaba as well. So you don't want to miss it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anthem.
The ancient city is calling. Oh, arise, sons and daughters of the land. The King